G'day, legends. Welcome back to Roadside. This is the Tour de France lift out, our final review. The Tour de France, it is over, it is completed, and what a month it has been, Tommy. It's been a big 3 or 4 weeks for us, for everyone watching. We've had 6 recap episodes throughout the tour. We've had 6 or 7 roadside lives and a lot of social media posting as well. It's been a huge month for us, mate, but hey, here we are.
Standing, but only just, my friend. I dare to be on the ground one day doing it. You just fall over the line. But maybe the time zone difference, that hampers our coverage and our ability to get it all done. But I'm glad we did, mate, because you could just see the coverage that we were putting out and, the reaction we were getting from a lot of people, particularly around Perth, in the cycling community. But yeah, enjoyed it from both sides of the fence. So it's good work.
Yeah.
And what a tour.
I know, what a tour. Definitely a tour of 2 hours that we're going to get stuck in today. We're going to go through the full GC, recap the main talking points of the tour, and a few things to look ahead to as well that, riders like Vingegaard, Roglic, Remco, and Pogacar himself and their future, what it looks like from here. And, of course, dissect all the major parts of the race. Now, the Tour de France FEMS has also just started, 2 stages in, everyone. I did drop a series called the Tour de France FEMS Diaries with Lucy Fitchus, a St. Michel Preference Homes Auburn 93 rider. Unfortunately, parts 2 and 3 won't be going ahead because Lucy will miss the time limit on the second stage. I think must have been injury, sickness, something there. There are a lot of riders who actually who really suffering so far early in the tour. Big name riders too. So I hope everyone enjoyed the first episode, part 1. But parts 2 and 3, obviously, we will miss. But we'll catch up with Lucy maybe in the Aussie summer. Moving ahead, but one more bit of admin before we get stuck in, Tommy, is our quad lock. I know, our quad lock prize, the $200 voucher. This Friday, so the 28th, so whatever the first Friday of August is, Friday 5 p.m, we will be picking a comment from the reel on our Instagram at the Roadside Cycling Podcast. So make sure you go and comment on there for your chance to win. Random will pick someone to win a $200 thanks to Quadlock. Okay, legends, let's get into this episode. This is Roadside presented by Zwift. So the FE Sports results recap. Stages 16 to 21 was the last time we saw you on our last recap episode. So on stage 16, it was Valentin Paripant winning on Mont Ventoux, making it 4 stage wins for Soudal Quickstep in the tour. Not bad, was it, Tommy? It was a massive stage.
Mate, what a stage this was. We saw a bit of a battle for the break. The break, they got up the road. They took time. There were a few teams missing from the break. That whole surprise. Jayco, they weren't there. Maybe they were rolling the dice to see if the break wasn't going to go to the line. And Valentin Paripant, everyone thought Healy had this stage covered, and they just sort of whittled it down bit by bit. Even the big man, Enric Mas, he was dropped on the climb. He was sort of, everyone thought, oh, wow, his Palmares, he would have had him in the favourite. But the little pocket rocket of Paripant, he took the stage ahead of Healy. Ventoux's iconic, and I really thought that Pogacar was going to try and stamp his authority on this stage, but this really set the tone for the final week, didn't it, Jet? What we saw of Pogacar on Ventoux, where he said, I'm going to ride defensively and I'm riding for yellow.
It was. It's definitely something we're going to discuss a little bit further in the pod. Stage 17 was Jonathan Milan. He took his second stage victory and declared, he stuck his own flag in the green jersey, which was nice to see. Stage 18, a hectic stage, the Queen stage of the Tour de France, or one of a few, which Ben O'Connor got his stage win and saved, I guess, his race and also Jayco's, wasn't it, for this particular? It was just a massive, massive win for them.
It was huge. Absolutely. You can't, we hear Jonathan Vaughters from EF speak about the importance of a stage. They took a stage and then they decided to go for yellow later on down the race, and they got that. But you hear of the team bosses talk about the importance of a stage victory. And O'Connor's ride that day did just that. Just released this big pressure, and for himself personally, a bit of satisfaction to come away with something and pretty special. There's something about just crappy conditions he just revels in, doesn't he? It was miserable. It was a bit of rain. And obviously the parkour was so difficult. And to finish on the Col de la Loz, what a way to do it, huh?
Yeah, he's got 2 big mountains at the Tour de France under his belt now, and he can win a lot more if he just flicks the GC forever. Stage 19, Timon Aronson won pulled a very special performance out of the hat for him. And that also, just like Ben O'Connor, he saved Ineos's Tour de France campaign with a pretty lackluster team team performance, but he did really well winning that stage ahead of Vingegaard and Pogacar. He can pull out a big performance.
Yeah, it's been sort of simmering for him. Everyone sort of expected him to sort of maybe step into the shadow that Pavel Sivakov left when he left the team, and thought, oh, he's going to become this guy who can go for GC and, be the big man alongside Carlos Rodriguez as well, who ultimately he had to leave the Tour as well from the team with a fractured pelvis. They also lost Pogacar early on in the first week. So for a team that was sort of down on its hands and sort of scrambling for success or where it was going to come from, Arnsman stepped up, and he stepped up in a big way, didn't he? He took that early stage win, and then to win the his second stage, deep into the third week, shows you how classy he is. He was in multiple breakaways as well. So not only was he just getting the chance to have the opportunity to win, he was doing that multiple times. So I think he'll take a lot out of this year's Tour de France for Ineos. He saved it.
He did. He certainly did save it. Stage 20 was a filthy. I mean, the rain in the last 3 or 4 days of the Tour was just torrential, and stage 20 was just a soaked rat day. And it was our man, Caden Grooves, who wanted this stage more than anyone. The way he raced out front, he could tell nobody wanted it more than Caden Grooves on the day. And Tommy, we saw the Tour de France social media page reheating our soup with the tagline of Caden Grooves in their Instagram post celebrating his win. We started that shit. Tommy, you started this back in.
Yes,
I didn't even know it. Yeah.
Probably through a typo, wasn't it? Probably through a pure typo, and we've ran with it.
Was.
I can't say we do much for preparation for this show, so yeah, it was. And mate, this was huge, wasn't it? He didn't even attack in the end of the day.
Jake
Stewart
just
rolled off the front. Jake Stewart he bungled it, didn't he?
Trentin
he was there
Stewart?
He was there with Frank Vandenbroek from Post Picnic. Yes. And Vandenbroek is a classy rider. Last year, Vandenbroek was the rider who was at the line with Bardet on the opening stage at the Tour de France. And he's won throughout the Asia circuit as well, and he's a strong, strong rider. He's the sort of guy, if he was away by himself, they wouldn't have caught him. As a time trialist, he's super strong. He's finished in like the top 5 at the Dutch TT Nationals, so he's that sort of rider. But he rolled his cards and he rolled the dice, and they both got it wrong, didn't they? They all got it wrong on that day.
Well, either way, if they went to the line with him, they would have got smoked. So Caden Grooves wins. He completes the trio of all 3 stage wins at the Grand Tours, and then Stage 21 was a controversial move at the start or before the Tour de France, the Montmartre finale, but it was an overwhelming success. I mean, the scenes of that circuit, of what it did at the Olympics, it was tenfold at the Tour de France, and the racing, what we got, Wout van Aert dropping Pogacar, the crowds were just psycho, the Mohoric trying to kill himself through the corners, the battles on the cobbles, wet, it was magic, and I think it really was a great way to end the Tour de France.
No, it wasn't. No, go back to the old day. None of the riders like it, mate. There's enough stages that we see Wout compete, and we see Tadej compete for the stage victory.
No, there's.
I think it's look. Don't get me wrong. It was highly entertaining, and I thought it was thrilling, considering that it was wet and it was sketchy, and it's everything that you want to see, from an entertainment perspective. But from a bit more of a human racing side of the fence, so to speak, like there we were, and all the riders, all the big boys, they lugged themselves through the Pyrenees, through the Alps, through the Jura, and they're not really rewarded for doing that. So we give a lot of crap for riders who pull out halfway through the Giro and even the Vuelta for that instance. Why would you even finish the Tour de France if you were a Groenewegen? Why would you even bother? If you were another sprinter, Yeah, yeah, exactly. But even Philipsen wouldn't have made it over. All the big sprinters didn't make it over. Why would you even bother going through all that where you could go race maybe 2-3 stages at Wallonie and go win a stage there? What's the point? Unless you got the green jersey and the chance to win it, like don't bother. Like Malia could have just packed up and gone home.
Yeah, but I think it's just like the sprinters aren't entitled to some finish at the end of the race just because they've always had a procession sprint finish at the end of the Tour de France doesn't mean they're entitled to it forever. That's become boring, the sprint finish, and it's a procession, it's a walk, it's a bit of a joke. Riders rolling around with bloody champagne glasses, and then all the Dutch riders got to ride together. The Belgians got to get a photo. It's a piss take, and then they sprint at the end, and they think it's the most prestigious sprint in world cycling when they've been riding or racing for 40 kilometers. Versus this Montemartre stage was a war, and those who were really willing to race and put it on the line and actually show respect for the race, they had a red hot crack, not like the pansies that sat at the back and didn't race a thing. So I think if
the mob that have done a month of racing, and the first block was just chaotic at this Tour de France. To have nothing at the end for the group of cyclists who cannot actually partake in the race other than just making time, I think is crap. They only had one sprint opportunity, maybe 2 on stage 20 if they had gotten there. But we all saw in stage 20, those climbs were actually a lot harder on paper in the way it was raced, that, only guys like Caden, those harder sprinters could get over there. I personally just think you've got to have something at the end for the sprinters. And I think there's an idea of, I don't know if they were all... Yeah,
there was 5 sprint winners: 2 Milan, 2 Malia, and 1 Philipsen at the start. So they can't
absolutely 5 stages. Yeah, and I think they would trade, any of those guys would trade one of those stages, even 2, to make sure Champs-Élysées is included as a sprint finish, or at least the parcours is a little bit more favourable for that. So there's the feel in the peloton that it all took away as well from the GC battle or the actual race itself. And there's tradition for very good reason in this sport. It's a bloody old sport, mate. And I don't know. I think it's sort of takes away from that element by throwing in this climb. And maybe this is what Prudhomme wants, though. He wants that excitement factor. Or maybe it's the other heads of ASO who go, we want our TV numbers up.
Maybe. Well, I think it was a big success. Personally, I wonder what everyone else thinks. Let us know in the comments. Did you like it, or did you prefer the Champs-Élysées sprint sleep finish? And just by the way, Wout van Aert became the third active. He's the third rider who is currently active to have 10 or more Tour de France stage wins. So that's actually a really good win. Philipsen and Pogacar. Those are the other 2. So pretty impressive from him. But into the GC, Tommy will wrap up the final GC. Pogacar taking a win with a 4-minute 24 gap on Jonas Vingegaard. Lipowitz, the German from Red Bull Bora, with at 11 minutes 09, takes out that podium spot in his first Tour de France, or at least first GC bid Tour de France. Only real bolter for Picnic Post NL. He was about 50 seconds behind Lipowitz in 4th. Felix Gall in 5th, who really, he actually rode it quite good the second half. Johannesson in 6th. Vauquelin 7th. Roglic 8th, Healy 9th. And Jordan Jagat from Team Total in 10th. And the jerseys, Tommy, who do we have for the jerseys?
We had your man, my man actually, Johnny Milan in the sprint jersey, the green sprint jersey, the white jersey Florian Lipowitz. Polka was obviously Pogacar, and the most combative, which is a load of crap, is Healy. And you're forgetting one of the most important categories of the Tour de France, mate. What am I talking about?
Oh, last place, the Lanterne Rouge.
No, I'm talking about the team's classification.
Oh, who gives a fuck about
the team's classification, and it was won by the best team, was Team Visma Lease, like convincingly a big 24 minutes ahead of UAE and Red Bull. So great to see Visma, the best team out of this year's Tour de France.
With no Almeida. So well done to them, and I'm sure they'll be wearing their yellow caps on the Eurostar back to wherever they live. So we'll get stuck into the GC discussion and our major talking points after this, but we must remind everyone that the Zwift Ride, which if you're on YouTube, you can see my setup just there, and Tommy's got his getting built. The Zwift Ride is now in stores in Australia all around now, thanks to FE Sports, who are taking over the distribution rights with that, getting it out to stores.
FE?
Yeah, taking it to, well, of course, our great sponsors, 99 Bikes, all your local bike shops, just checked in. If your bike shops are stocking FE products like Wahoo, 100%, Pinarello's, Pirellis, all of those brands, they'll likely stock these Zwift Ride. Will be able to order them in. So check out your local bike store there around Australia. But let's get into this, the GC battle. Lots to talk about. Unpack it. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. So Tommy, the GC battle. Pogacar, he was simply too good. Even with a significantly weaker team with Sivakov sick, Soler probably not at his best level, and of course the second best team helper, he's got Almeida crashing out early. He still rose a step above everyone else, with his team riding 100% for him. It was unbeatable in this tour, but it was interestingly because the first half he raced like he was a crazed man trying to win everything and prove he is the best and just racing for fun. And the second half, he kind of went into a shell a little bit and rode it defensively, didn't he?
Yeah, certainly did, didn't he? Yeah, maybe the weariness, a little bit of sickness as well in the tail end of that second week. Sort of just, I don't know, tighten the screws, and maybe for once he might have listened to his directors who said, look, Tadej, Jonas's 4 minutes there. You can easily lose 4 minutes on one of the Queen stage or even stage 19. And you could realistically lose the tour. So let's just ride defensively. You say a significantly weaker team. Yeah, I think there was that level, without, if you take away how good Pollitt was in the second week and Tim Wellens was in the first, and even Johnny Narvaez as well, they were really good. Those three guys anchored the team, in my opinion. They were just so important. Adam Yates, he sort of bobbed up and did his thing where he's sort of there and thereabouts, but he's kind of on the fringe. He wasn't maybe such a key pillar to be lent on this year, but
he was disappointing.
Yeah, for someone. Yeah, but don't forget he also rode the Giro. So the team potentially they took him in thinking, hey, look, maybe he's going to get better. We'll see. But 2 Grand Tours in the legs, you're not going to expect much from someone like that in the second week. So I thought I was a bit surprised to see him on the start list for starters, knowing how much quality they have in that squad. So it was a bit of an interesting one, in my opinion, to see who UAE brought. But the workload that was taken on board by Wellens and Pollitt meant that they could cover, and particularly once Almeida, crashed out.
Well, they're just also just lucky that Pogacar is just so good as well. He didn't really need a team at all, to be fair. Vingegaard, he rode admirably to take his second place of this Tour de France, but I have to say he failed to back up his words about not caring. Yes, about not caring about second place. He said it in the second week at the start after the first rest day. They don't care about second place. He's here to win, and he'll throw everything to do that. And in the second and third week, particularly in the third week, that was not someone who was someone who was carefree about that podium spot. He was protecting it. He didn't race like someone who really, truly did not care about losing second place to win first, particularly when he had such a big buffer on second place. So although I think Vingegaard actually did ride quite well and much better than last year, you could tell he was still chained to finishing on the podium. And another thing I need to say, Tommy, is that Visma didn't go all in behind Vingegaard. They were chasing breakaways in the first week with multiple riders, with Benoot one day, with Simon Yates the next, and yes, Simon did win, no worries. Wout was chasing every second stage. Campenarch was in breakaways. Jorgensen going in random breakaways too. The team wasn't fully behind Vingegaard's GC battle. Well, when you're going
what's wrong with going for stages? Yeah, no, I know the Lance footprint.
Well, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong with it. You tire out your riders. You had your best GC domestique, Simon Yates, tiring himself out, going in day-long flat track breakaways twice inside the first week. And really, when you look at what Simon Yates was able to do in the second and third week, it was really average and no work at all. So if you're all in for GC, you need the whole team to be all in. And that's what they were for UAE. And that's how you win a Grand Tour. You can't win with having 5 people going for stages and then a GC rider left with mediocre support.
What's a better result? Second on GC or third and 2 stage victories?
Well, maybe it depends who your GC rider is. Because if you have Vingegaard...
Okay, so do you think, for example, if Vingegaard finished third, say Lipovic finished second, but Visma have their stage victories from Wout on the Champs-Élysées, and then also they have their victory from Simon Yates as well.
Yeah, and yes, but
I reckon that's
different. You can't compare because Lipowitz, if you're saying Lipowitz is someone who's debuting, he would take second place all day long. But when you're Vingegaard, you've won it twice and finished second twice. Finishing second and third again sucks. And if your team isn't all behind your GC bid, this is the thing. If you're coming up against Pogacar, you cannot beat him without 100% team cohesion and all in for one goal. You can't split goals. If you're Pogacar's team, maybe you can do that because your GC rider's so good. But when you're coming up against the GOAT, you can't split goals. I think they could have done it better.
I tend to disagree because I think ultimately when it mattered, those guys played those roles when they needed to be. So, even when Campenaerts and Yates were in that break that Yates won, they were initially there to be helpful for Jonas. And also from behind, still had Wout and Affini. So when things got wrong or they got into trouble, there was still help from even as well. We throw in Tish Benoot as well. And on the windier, chaotic stages, the rouleurs were around Jonas. On the climbing stages, those climbers were around Jonas. Despite, I think the only, you can turn around and say maybe the tactics were a bit amiss and a bit askew. They prodded and poked when they should have maybe swung and hit. But at the end of the day, they're also coming against Pogacar, who was in incredible form. And I think they realised that pretty quickly, particularly on the time trial as well. That was a pretty clear line in the sand where they go, hey, look, we're going to have to try something different. We're going to have to also maybe spread our resources and also go after a few stages. Give some other riders some opportunity. And that might have even come from Jonas internally, who goes, guys, I think this guy has my measure. They're not going to come out and publicly say, oh, we're not going to give up the fight. Tadej's too good. That's just to believe.
Well, they actually did. They did the opposite. They did the opposite, and all that work they did in the first week.
Yeah, what else are they going to say? What else are they going to say? They're not going to turn around and say, "Oh, we're done. Let's pack it up, boys. Go home." They're going to come in and say,
no.
Jonas doesn't give a crap about the media. He's just going to turn around and say, "Yeah, the tour's not over. The tour's never over." It's just easy lines to reel out. You bit on the Jonas bug, mate.
No, but when you're domestic, this is what I'm saying. When your domestics are out in breakaways in the first week and in the first 10 stages, if you're going to go for stages, and you've got to be ready to do your actual job, which is why you're there to help Vingegaard. And when you got to when the team arrived at the first mountain stage on stage 12, the first proper one with divisive, gaps that could be formed, they all dropped. All their domestics were all dropped before midway through the second last climb. When it mattered, the very first mountain stage, they dropped before it even got hard, and Vingegaard lost 2 minutes to Pogacar. His teammates were nowhere to be seen, but in the first week, when it's flat track bully, everyone's fresh. They were dancing away for stages and they were yapping their mouth. But when it came to the crunch time, they failed at their job. And all I'm saying is, you can't go out and chase stages for your personal gain, but then not do your job when it comes to the crunch time. And I think that's where they went wrong. They need to go all in if they want to beat Pog.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you go all in if you've got someone who's got Pog's measure. They didn't. And I think they knew that. That's what I mean.
Yes. I think you're right.
And they're just not going to say that publicly. They're just going to turn around and say, oh, yeah, we're all in on GC. GC's not over. No, it's not, man. They're there to win a few stages, and you saw that from Jonas, the way he was riding, particularly on stage 19. That's how Arnsman won the stage, because Jonas wanted the stage. He knew he backed himself to get the better of Pog on that uphill finish, that mountaintop finish. Except there was the sort of unaccountable factor that Arnsman was there. So I really actually like the idea that Visma went and rode for stages. I think it's smart. Otherwise, they would have finished second without any stage victories.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. Internally, they didn't believe that Vingegaard had what it took to beat Pogacar. So internally, they said, okay, Yates, you can go for your stages. Wout, you can go for your stages. Jorgensen, you can ride like an idiot or do whatever you want. And
Yeah,
externally,
that wasn't smart.
they'll project like they are racing as one team. But why not just say that? Just say you're going to give. Just it's a simple line.
And I'm
Look,
never going to
we've
say
got.
that. No one's ever going to say that.
But why not? What's wrong with that?
It's just stupid to say publicly. It's just an
Well,
easy.
just
It's
say,
just an easy. It's just an easier memo to wheel out. Oh yeah, we're all here for Jonas. Like, just
okay,
wheel that
okay.
one out. Like, yeah, I look at
Well,
that from a.
fair enough. Roglic and Red Bull Bora, they had a mixed tour, but I think they'll be pretty happy at the end of the day because Roglic, the 35, he actually had quite a good second and first half of week 3, but then he did that stupid solo attack, which was kind of
Burnt the house down. Just
it
burnt
was
the
kind
house
of
down, didn't he?
it was
He
like
woke
when
up on
you're
the wrong side
leaving.
of the bed and he chose violence.
That's right. It's like you've just quit the job that you hated, and you on your way out, you call the manager a CUNT and then go catch you. And that was kind of what Roglic was doing. So that was weird. But Lipowitz finished on the podium, and Red Bull have got someone there that they can work with because he's got a pretty good future ahead of him, Tommy. But where to now for Roglic, mate? What's your take on him? What's he going to do for the remainder of his contract with Red Bull? Because he's still valuable and he can still race with the best, but maybe just not for GC for 3 weeks.
I think he's done for the year. He's done the Giro where he did, close to 3/4 of the Giro. He did he went deep into the Giro, went right up to the Queen stage and then pulled the plug. Recovered, came to the Tour and still top 10. I think if he rode a little bit more sensibly, he could have podiumed. I don't think he really cares about that, honestly.
Yeah.
For the rest of the year for Roglic, I think Roglic turns around, he puts his feet up, or he goes and tries and win Lombardia or something like that, a monument, something a little bit different for him. I hope he doesn't go to the Vuelta. We've seen that too much. But for Roglic, he's had a contract. This is one of another big dominoes that's got to fall to set the transfer market. And where he's going, maybe it's gone. I haven't heard what he is doing, but he's a rider who I dare say you could go to any team almost with a World Tour team, and he could give you a top 10, even a top 5 at either the Giro and the Vuelta.
Well, the Vuelta.
The Tour, we'll wait and see. But he's good enough to go there and do that.
And those
do it
week-long races too.
Yeah, he eats them for breakfast, doesn't he? If he doesn't crash, he's amazing. He generally wins it. So he is a valuable asset, and he deserves a big pay still wherever he goes. He's good enough to win.
I didn't know he was out of contract this year. Is that right?
I believe so. Or maybe I got to eat my own words.
Now, I'm just checking
Put me in the bin.
I'm just checking.
Me in the bin. We'll have to cut that whole segment. But
no, it is. He is. He's contracted until 2025. And I tell you what, I would just watch Tudor Pro Cycling on Roglic for 2026 because I reckon he would fit in that team quite nicely. Now,
they seem like a well-balanced team, and Roglic seems like someone who likes having the entourage and the sole focus.
Forget GC. I would just bring Roglic in at 36 years old in 2026. I'd bring him for stages. Imagine him in mountain breakaways. He would easily win stages against the likes of Arensman and Storers, and he would be a good asset there for a team like Tudor. But let's keep moving on. Only was a revelation, which we'll get to in a second. Our flops and revelations of the Tour. Only was fantastic. He unearthed himself. We didn't think Only had this level of riding in his wheelhouse. We've only really seen him on just really steep, punchy finishes on one-day races or short week stage races. But he quite literally saved Picnic Post-Annel's season in the World Tour. His points for the GC at the Tour have actually catapulted Picnic out of the relegation zone and back into the safe zone, which is amazing, finishing 4th at the Tour.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive, wasn't it? Like he rode. I kept on waiting for him one day to just sort of capitulate, or at least have a day where he lost 10 minutes.
Me too.
But not 10 minutes to Tadej or Jonas, but 10 minutes to sort of Felix Lipowitz. He was just so smart, wasn't he? Where he gave time where he needed to give it, and he pushed hard to take time when he could. When he finished inside the top 10 on the individual time trial after the World Cup, I was pretty impressed. I thought, oh, this kid, he can. This guy's. I think he's going to be able to ride to his own measure and stay within his own lunchbox, so to speak, and not get caught up with the whole circus that goes around it. And he stayed really grounded, and his team was super committed to him. I think we saw them come to play in the last week, where they really focused hard on him. And there was that day, I think it was stage 19, he got dropped over one of the middle climbs, and then his team have just appeared.
Just the train,
Yeah, just get on the post-picnic train, and they took him right back up to the front of the race. And then they all blew up on the final climb, and he was there, and it sort of saved his spot. So bloody brilliant. Does he go to the Vuelta?
Ooh, I mean, he's only young. It's that would be an interesting one. Maybe if he is a relaxed race to go to. So I guess we'll see. Picnic will probably want him to go for the points. They don't really have anyone else that could score points in their team. I guess we'll see. But I'm wondering, he's signed until 2027, I think. But if a team comes knocking, they're going to have to, throw a bit of money at him. Ineos, they must
throw money at him. And if Ineos miss out on it, they've missed out on Remco. If they miss out on Roglic, they will have some money to burn. Thomas is off their books at the end of this year. So they will have some pretty good cash reserves. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they turn around to post-picnic this year and, post the relegation period and say, yep, we want him. Here's 2-3 million for him.
Yeah, we'll watch this space with Onley. Let's see where he ends up. Maybe next year we might see some contract negotiations open up for him. Now, Tommy, it's time for our revelations. I don't even know how to say it. Our renovations of the tour. Our revelations. I've completely cooked it. And the flops of the Tour de France. Okay, so we'll pick some riders who really came out of nowhere and surprised us with their performance, and then some riders who completely flopped and had a disappointing Tour de France. Tommy, let's start with the flops of the tour, and I will go first.
Who do you have?
I've got two. My first is Dylan Groenewegen. His best, from Jaco Alula. I actually like Dylan as a rider. When in his prime, he was a real psychopath. But Dylan Groenewegen, his best place finish at any sprint was 12th. And he is the, put it this way. I didn't know Ocean's 11 had a remake because this was the biggest heist since that film was born, because he is the highest paid on the team and he brought the lowest level to the Tour de France. And it was a real kick in the face to his teammates, letting them down because he turned up, obviously, in bad shape. And if he was sick, we would have known about it. Terrible shape. Groenewegen in top shape easily finishes in the top 5 of at least one of those 5 sprints. He didn't even crack the top 10. That is a terrible performance and a flop.
Hold up. Groenewegen, he won a stage at Slovenia. He won some at Hungary.
This is the tour. It's the tour.
He's not.
We're not talking about.
He was. He wasn't really there at UAE, was he? He was good at Alula. Yeah, okay. So he's had a mediocre season.
It's not the season, though. The season doesn't matter. It is the tour. You're there for the tour. Forget it. His season's been shit, but he's there for the tour, and he flopped hard. Tommy, do you have a flop for you? I've got one more, but I want you to put yours next.
Are you doubling down? You got 2.
I've got 2.
I can't see what you've written, by the way, as well. Okay. My flop were for the home soil on the home race. 2 of the French World Tour teams. They have had better years. I'm speaking of Cofidis. I thought they were hugely irrelevant at the Tour. Could you tell me what their best finish was at this year's Tour de France? What was their best result, mate? Can you tell me, Cofidis? Can you even tell me what their jersey looks like?
It's the red and yellow one, and the only rider I can remember seeing once was Dylan Toynes, and it was on stage 20.
Dylan Toynes, wow, that's, See, most people wouldn't even know that he was there alongside Alex Arenburen. They had Emmanuel Buchmann, who was there. Their best result was Brian Cockard, and he finished 7th on stage 8 in a sprint. So for a World Tour team, they've been down on their luck pretty heavily this year, but they were just so irrelevant. And alongside them was Groupama FDJ as well. They went into this year's tour. They took in Guillaume Martin, who's sort of an eternal, top 10. He tries to get a top 20 on the GC. He rolls around for points. I think he did that. they took in Gregoire and Valentin Madouas, and they both failed to fire.
He failed.
They both failed to get a stage. So yeah, they were just nowhere to be seen. So for a French team, for two French teams at the tour, and I know every tour is trying to obviously get success. I thought they were just nowhere, just absolutely nowhere. Not even trying to compete in breakaways or being the right moves, or sort of coming in with just irrelevant priorities. I thought they we're going to go for this rider and this rider, and it just didn't work out because that rider, you could tell on paper, they've done nothing this season. What makes you think they're going to come to the tour and get results?
No, well said. And Valentin Madouas was definitely that was really disappointing tour from him. My other flop is Matteo Jorgensen, Tommy from Visma. And this is no surprise. Everybody will know this is clear as day. He spent too much energy talking, and when it mattered, he was useless. He was a week one flat track bully. That's what Jorgensen was. He talked his mouth at the start. He obviously doesn't like Pogacar.
What did he carry on saying? What did he say?
There's a lot. Look, you got to pay attention, Tommy. He was all over it, talking a big shot. And then on stage 12, where you would have paid attention because halfway up the first climb of the entire Tour de France, he was like a lead sinker. He did absolutely nothing. And when he did have the legs, he was in breakaways. He was ahead of the race, useless to Vingegaard. And for me, big flop for someone who talked a big game. So Jorgensen, a little bit cocky, drank too much of his own bathwater, I thought, for this Tour de France, and got sick at the end too.
Yeah, he certainly did. I think everyone got sick at the end, to be honest, mate. They're all just sick.
Sick from drinking his own bathwater. He was perfectly healthy.
They're not sick as me having to listen to you 4 times a week. I don't know. Jorgensen, mate, look, he got a few things wrong. He'll learn from it. Still pretty young.
We're not here to debate, Tommy.
I'll defend him. I don't mind him. He was still, look, in the first week, he was still up there on GC and he was doing the right things. When it got to the mountains, it was a miss, wasn't he? And I still don't think he's that sort of rider who can go really, really deep in the mountains. I think that's why they really looked and they thought Kuss and Yates, they were supposed to be deep into the mountains. I don't know why they relied on Simon Yates. You can't rely on those boys too much, can you? They both did the Giro. One won the Giro. He went deep, didn't he? So what makes you think he's going to be good in the third week at the Tour?
He had about 50 bottles of wine before he got to the Tour of Simone Yates, and as he should. And Matteo Jorgensen, well, he likes to spell flop with a G. So we'll move on to our revelations of the Tour. That spells flog, by the way. Our revelations, Tommy. Who was your...
certainly wasn't you, was it? I am not going to go the obvious one. Who I think you're going to go. I think I know who you're going to go. You fanboyed around him.
There was a few revelations. Yeah, renovations.
My man, I'll get around this team. Uno X. I thought they were just so good at this year's Tour de France. They got the invite a couple of years ago where they were sort of scratching around. They did the breakaways. But this year they came in and they were just such a cohesive unit. They had Jonas Abrahamsen. He won stage 11 in a 2-up sprint over Maro Schmidt. And the Scandinavian team, they went on and they took 6 on GC with Tobias Johannesson. They were just super cohesive with their goals. They even had Son Wanenskold as well, who was contesting the sprints, and he was third on a couple of the opening stages. Then he crashed out, I believe, or he crashed and then he got out. So, they're the best. That's the best placed GC finish from a Pro Conti or Pro Series team that I can see. At least in the last 10 years, there's only been Derek G from last year for Israel, who was 9th. And then in 2019 was Warren Barguil, who rode for Arkea, who were a Conti team back then, a Pro Conti team, and he finished 10th. So this is one of the best. This is from at least the last 10 years, the best from the Pro Conti Pro Series team for a GC result. And I just think that is the best revelation you can get at the Tour de France. We talk about guys coming through like Onelli and stuff. They've got the World Tour set up. They've got all these guys there for them. This team came with split ambitions and they just were able to just galvanize around him when push came to shove in the mountains. And it just is wonderful to see for an outfit that ultimately them and Tudor, they should be World Tour teams. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And it means that they're obviously going to go to the Tour next year. Even if they're a Pro Conti team, they won't need to worry about competing with the French teams to get an invite. So, and to be honest, they should be going to all the World Tour races. They should be going to the Vuelta. They're a good enough team to turn around and take an outfit there and to the Giro. So they're not like Q36.5 where they, or Lotto for that example, where they need to pick which Grand Tour they go to, who they actually say no to going to the Giro. This team would be able to field and field riders in every race and have good structured goals. They're just a well-drilled outfit. Oh, they were mine, mate. What about you?
No, it's a good call. And also they had Magnus Cort there who was sick. And so if we actually got the Magnus Cort at his top level, he would for sure be contesting for quite a few of those breakaway stages.
Oh, absolutely.
I also read something about Uno X. If you take away the logistical costs that are included in their budget for their team, just their annual rider salaries and staff salaries is alone, and removing everything else, is €8 million. So 8.5 million euro. So that's essentially what Pogacar gets paid per year. So that is the efficiency of using their numbers well. So good call, Tommy, on Uno X. My renovation, the great man, my revelation. I can't say.
Get on with it.
I'm going to say mine is Kevin Vacquelin.
Kevin.
What a guy. I was so impressed with his ability in the first week. And I think his GC result was fantastic. Top 10 of the Tour de France. Unbelievable. But I was really specifically impressed with his first week and his ability to compete with Van der Poel and Pogacar on those punchy stages in the north of France. So I hope that when we see him next year, he really fully targets hardcore the Ardennes. And when he comes to the Grand Tours, he only goes for stages, because he could be walking 2 stages per Grand Tour, whichever one he decides to take on. GC, I just hope he doesn't fall into that French trap of riding for GC, because he may have finished in the top 10, but he was 22 minutes down, and he probably would have preferred to get a stage, particularly in his home region where he rode through from stages like 7 to 11. So Vacquelin, he was pretty good, wasn't he, Tommy? And we'll see if he stays on that team. Arkea, is it Arkea?
No, he's signed to Ineos.
Ineos.
Sort of the murmurs that I've heard. He's sort of done deal, so he's off there. So Arkea, they're a sinking ship at the moment without the sponsorship, so they are done. And he is off, and I think he might have been maybe he signed too early, to be honest. I think if he had signed after the Tour, he would be adding a few more spondulis to his contract. But good call. I hope he never rides GC at a Grand Tour. I thought it was just, we saw when the big mountain days came, he was just getting dropped, and then he would, particularly at the particularly over the back, his team would just ride him back. I'll tell you what, you could throw someone in a flop as well, is Arnaud Demar. Let's move on.
Demar, it was good, but I'll give him points for he's celebrating on the Montmartre stage when he was like a last wheel for the whole race. We've got our Quad Tour talking points, final talking points right after this sting. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. Quad Tour talking points. This is the juicy part of the pod. Tommy, Quadlock use Roadside 10 to get 10% off all Quadlock products, and comment on our reel on our Instagram page, and you can win the $200 Quadlock voucher. Pogacar is 4th Tour de France victory. He's 1 win away from equaling the all-time Tour de France win record, Tommy, and he's only the 5th reigning world champion to win the Tour de France. At 26 years old, Tom, how many more tours or Tour de France's do we think Pogacar will race coming off?
Will race.
Pogacar's, will race. How many more will he do?
Not will win, will race.
Will race.
Oh, I think I'd like to think at least 3 more. Take him to maybe when he's 30, 29. He's still young. I think it's hard ask to gear up for the Tour year in, year out. And he's done it for such a young age. He maybe only needs 1 year of going and doing the Giro on the Vuelta. Or even then, he could just have a year. He's good enough, isn't he? And he's in demand enough that he could just say, I'm just going to have a year off. He could win next year. Or I shouldn't say win, but he could challenge and then just say, I want a year off. I'll come back to it next year. I just can't do this. Maybe the build-up's too much for him. Maybe he needs to get a better team around him in terms of protecting him from the demands of the non-racing demands of the team in terms of media management and that element.
That could be improved.
And that, that could give him a bit of his life back, so to speak. Because he just seems like just a pretty genuine sort of bloke who doesn't really care about the circus, does he? So I think that's why we all love him so much.
Well,
why do
I
you think he's done?
Well, I remember late last year there were some rumors going around that there was a bit of tension between Pogacar and his management and the team, particularly around the fact of him riding Roubaix this year. He wanted to race it last year, but his team said no. And this year came around, and his demands were too heavy. He said, "No, I'm racing Roubaix." But he really wanted to focus all in on the classics and not do much prep for the tour. There was a lot of friction there. This is all rumored, about what Pogacar wanted to do, what the team and his requirements as a rider per his contract for the team, were sort of getting him to do. But I think as we're entering sort of the next sort of 3 or 4 years of Pogacar's career, I have a feeling that he really just wants to focus on the classics and have a crack at those and maybe get out of that Tour de France bubble, because we're starting to see, like we did with Sagan, when Sagan was just the head honcho for 4 or 5 years in a row of the tour. Everyone was squeezing everything out of Sagan for media stuff. They're trying to get him for quotes. The pressure's on him to win. When he doesn't win, it's a fail. And then we saw the Sagan at the end of his career who was quite sour and surly towards the media and I guess towards his own fame as a professional rider who was above the sport during his tenure. And I'm worried we're going to see that with Pogacar, with just how everyone loves him. So it's going to be interesting to follow. And his quote after the Tour de France ceremonies was that his big goal is the 2028 Olympics. He wants the gold medal, something he doesn't have. And he said after that, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll consider retiring.
Those dates could clash as well. So
they do clash.
You get the feeling if it was next year that he would turn around and say, no, I'm just going to go for gold medal at the games and try and do that instead of going to the tour. You could just see ASO head honchos just blow up, couldn't you? From their PR department. They'd be in all sorts. So I'd like to see him do that, personally.
That's
I like
a good
the gold
call,
medal at the games. I think that's something that, for someone in his position, a very luxurious position, it'll also make the Grand Tour pretty bloody good, wouldn't it, if he's not there?
It would be a different Grand Tour to look at for sure. Now, speaking of different Grand Tours, should Vingegaard look at racing other Grand Tours in 2026, Tommy? Perhaps when I say other ones, should he focus on maybe the ones that Pogacar isn't there at? And also just in general, have a crack at the Giro and have a crack at the Vuelta in one season and skip the Tour. Because maybe he needs...
I think the question needs to be restructured. I think the question should be, can Jonas match Pog or better Pog? And I think if the answer is yes, then he goes to the Tour and he goes back to the well. If it's really honest, if it's a really honest conversation, and the answer is no, then they should turn around and say, yeah, let's try and send you to the Giro, and then maybe go to the Vuelta or do something a little bit different. Because out of that team, they don't have another real big GC man, do they? In my opinion, they could send Kuss to the Vuelta, but he's still not he's a podium at best. I think he won that year because he had the strongest riders on his team, which was wonderful to see. But also, they've got Simon Yates, of course, and I dare say you can't. I don't think Yates is a rider that you would send to the Tour. I think he's someone to send to the Vuelta and the Giro if you want to try and win it. So that would also step on his toes as well. He want to go to the Giro again, I believe, as a defending champ. So, what do you think? Do you think he should give the Tour a miss?
I like what you said before about this eternal question here the team has to ask himself about being good enough to take on Pogacar. I think we'll see a better version of Vingegaard next year, probably the best we could see. Whether it's enough to beat Pogacar, we'll see. But I just think he just needs to it's good to break it up sometimes. He'll get a fat paycheck to go to the Giro. I'm sure they'll come with a big offer for him. And to see Vingegaard at the Giro, Yeah, I think it would just be nice, and I feel like Vingegaard's also someone who would probably want to remove himself from the Tour de France bubble for at least 1 year. He's only 28. He's got plenty of years of GT riding left.
Could you imagine RCS, the organizer of the Giro, if Jonas and Tadej decided to do the Giro next year? Could you imagine the chaos?
There would be some oiled up pasta, that's for sure. They're just RCS bosses would have the truffle oil just lathering themselves up. It would be, it'd be something, wouldn't it? El dente, el dente. Now, we'll move on to our last point here, Tommy, is the mountains jersey and the sprint jersey to a smaller extent. Does the mountains jersey points need to be looked at in the way they're structured? Because 3 of the last 5 mountain jerseys have been won by the GC winner. That obviously shows that there is the points are not structured in favor of, to favor the competition to make it as exciting as it's possible. And I had a couple ideas on how they could change the structure of the points allocations.
Please
right. So, and this is to favour riders who are actually actively targeting this jersey and also stage wins. My first one would be to have greater points available for the first mountain pass of the day, because when you have those big mountain stages, typically the GC riders aren't exploding on the first mountain going over first, right? This would, I guess, provide a nice carrot for those riders to go on the breakaway, attack the first mountain pass to get maximum points for the day for that jersey. And my second one is to remove all mountain points if there is not an established breakaway. And I think
just call it on the day, help. just wrap it up.
Well, if there's no breakaway when at the mountain points and it's just a peloton rolling through, the points are void.
No, you can't do that. You can't wing it on the day. There'd be too much.
What do you mean wing it? What do you mean confusion? There's either a breakaway or there's not. You set a breakaway defined by when they put the cars in. So let's say 35 seconds. That's a break. There you go. If it's inside that, it's not.
Yeah, okay. It's a suggestion. But put it. I think put it in the box.
Need to change, I will put my name on it. Does it need to change?
Yeah, it needs to change. It's crap. It's terrible. It's a terrible system at the moment. It's uninspiring. It's only suitable for someone who, is maybe a GC man of the older generation. But even then, the Froome days, Froome would still be right up there on the polka dot jersey because he'd just win a summit finish here and there. So the points, the sprint points jersey, just that needs to change as well. I think the idea of having points for, the end of the time trial, the individual time trial, or even saw some mountaintop finishes or whatever. Some of those sort of stages they had points on offer, and you're just like,
Did you say that?
I want to see the individual.
Well, did you say that Vingegaard finished 4th in the sprint jersey? Is that right?
I had Vingegaard finishing 4th in the. Let me have a look here. At least in the points jersey, he was second. No, he was second in the com jersey, and he was 4th in the points jersey. Yeah,
and Pogacar was second in the points. So that's just not.
So it went Jonathan Milan, Pogacar, Biniam Girmay, Jonas Vingegaard, Anthony Turgis in 5th, and then the next big sprinter was Tim Merlier in 7th. So the points jersey needs to change. That needs to change. The days where we saw Sagan doing it or the best sprinter winning it, the battles between Zabel and Robbie McEwen. I just can't remember, any others. So I'd like to see that change.
I think if you had more points for the intermediate sprints, that would be pretty good. And put the intermediate sprints early in the stage. I think that would be good and also make just that first hour and a half of the racing a bit more exciting. But I'm sure.
It might kill it though, because then all the sprint teams will just. The sprint teams are just going to ride for the intermediate, and then the battle for the break will go on after. So,
well, I'm sure they'll look at it, but that's something, potentially it could change. If anyone's got any ideas for how they could change up the mountains or the points, chuck it in the comments below. But we've got our final segment coming up after this. This is the Roadside Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift.
Oh, you're cracked. You're washed. You are.
Okay.
You are.
Effie Sports, Roadside News, Tommy. You're getting all the names wrong, but hey, this is a long pod. This is a long pod, and you need to
Too
mute your
long.
microphone when you're coughing, mate. So, Roadside News. We've got a few things to get through before the end of this pod. The first one is the Remco's announcement to Red Bull is imminent. Gazzetta dello Sport and Ciro Scondomilio reported that the deal is from 2026 till 2028 as a minimum multi-year deal with Red Bull. We'll be hearing that very, very soon. I did speak to one of the riders in the peloton throughout the tour, and they had spoken with some of the Soudal riders about Remco leaving. They confirmed it and also said many of the riders were happy that Remco was leaving. So a bit of sour grapes there, but that's big news. And also Jan Wano Yuso, Tommy, is looking to get out of UAE. So
yeah, he wants out. Unsurprising, doesn't he? He's the grass doesn't always seem greener, but according to the movie star mob, it's certainly a better shade of green than UAE, isn't it? So UAE, they're trying to lure him. He's had a change of agent, hasn't he?
And yes, he has.
I think after the debacle that was the Giro, maybe he's ready to get out of Del Toro and Tadej. Also, just Tadej just doesn't seem like he likes him as well. So.
Yeah, well, Ayuso's never pulled a turn for Tadej in his life, and Movistar's Valverde's just there with the oil, ready to oil up Ayuso's legs. That was also, as rumoured by the Roadside Rumour File back in, I think it was May, we talked about this, Tommy. May.
What are you inciting? Are you saying that we're on the money? We are the news breakers?
Yes,
we are Giro from Gazzetta dello Sport.
We get it right.
Tom and Jet from Roadside News. Yes, okay.
Roadside News. Now, Vingegaard, he confirmed his Vuelta participation for 2025. So he said after the race, he'll compete at the Vuelta, and that he was feeling much fresher after this year's Tour de France versus last year. He felt like he was really dead and completely finished. So that's good news. Pogacar, on the other hand, will miss the Vuelta, and who will be leading? Yes, that was confirmed today. That was AS. AS is like a Spanish outlet, I believe. But Almeida and Ayuso will be leading the Vuelta. So
that'll go down Tommy's... well, that'll be good to see.
They will never work for each other, those two. And
a Spaniard and a Portuguese. That'll just be an absolute. Could you imagine being the DS on the bus? It's going to be a throwback to when Movistar had their trident of Quintana, Landa, and Valverde. It's going to be good.
Remember that photo? Oh, the bus. Someone had a gun on that photo. And now on... so good.
Locally.
The Australian front, I can't say too much here, but all I will say is with the Pro Vela Super League for 2026, it will look different to the 2025 edition. Yeah, it will look different. It won't
better
be...
or worse?
I would caution everyone to expect less from 2025. That's all I'll say. But looking forward to seeing another good year of racing in the summer. And you've got a bit of rumour file, Tommy, as well?
Oh, not a rumour file, but just to keep your eye out. We saw it earlier on in the year. You've been hot on this in the news scene. You've called that Rwanda Worlds will not happen in Rwanda this year. I don't really care if it happens or not, to be honest. In Rwanda, it doesn't really faze me. I think I think it'd be a nice thing if it happens, but there's a lot of logistical challenges that are happening over there, particularly running Worlds. Wait and see who won't put their hand up for Worlds. I think there's going to be a lot more riders going to the Northern Italian races, to the Vuelta, and a lot of guys who will be looking to do more and clock off and get out of there. There will be guys who will not want to go to Rwanda to race Worlds for a variety of different reasons. So most noticeably the fact that they don't want to fly all the way to Africa and back for a one-day race.
Training, you could lose, organs, internal organs could be sold. You take a sleeping pill, you wake up. And...
Okay. That put your stuff on the back burner, you idiot, you nuffy. But no, they will. There'll be a lot of riders who you would expect and go, yep, if it was, obviously closer to their home bases or closer, a little bit more accessible, then they would go. But yeah,
Well,
the
what an
UCI
uproar it
president.
was when it was in Australia. Remember that? Remember it was in Australia?
Oh,
It was
what
just the
Malakas.
biggest. Oh, it was, you couldn't hear about how bad it was to travel to Australia. But you're right. The logistical challenges will be a huge factor here for the Rwanda Worlds.
Yeah, and that's the very reason why Van der Poel's never going to come down to Tour Down Under, is he? Because of those Worlds in Wollongong. So
that's right. He'll choose a different hotel. Final words, Tommy. For me, this huge pod is one of the longest one we've done, but the Tour de France deserves it. I've really enjoyed this tour coverage. It's been great fun. Particularly, there was a period there I was sick for a whole week. The only person I talked to was you for a long week. So it kept me going, mate. I think we've had something like 25 or 30,000 people watching our tour coverage on YouTube, and pretty similar, big numbers on the social media as well, like 1 million visits to the page, and the pod, of course, doing great. So it's been awesome to have everyone's support and all the new listeners as well throughout the Tour de France.
Yeah, no, mate, love doing it. Love the coverage. We stepped it into our Giro and then Tour de France, and ASO, they've got us on the books to do the Vuelta, so we're going to be flying across.
Yeah, where's the contract? Did you sign it?
ASO? Oh, I did. I only signed as the sole beneficiary though, so.
Okay, well, that's
love
good.
Zwift. It's good. I got my e-ride over here, so I'm going to hit the Zwift tonight, mate. And shout out to them.
Shout out to Zwift. All right, guys, we've got Tour de France Femmes recap of the first 4 stages.
What goes on?
We will be with you guys in a few days, but enjoy this pod, and we'll catch up with you in a few days. This is Roadside presented by Zwift.